I am thinking of breaking up with my boyfriend after meeting his family. I can't tell if I'm being overdramatic. My husband, Paul, and I have been married for 7 years, and while our relationship has had its ups and downs, we've always strived to support each other. We share many interests, from hiking and cooking to binge-watching TV shows. However, there's one area where we often find ourselves at TV shows that contain sexual or nudity scenes. Our relationship began with an understanding and mutual respect for each other's boundaries. I'm not a huge TV consumer, so avoiding certain shows never seemed like a big deal to me. My husband, Paul, on the other hand, has a complicated history with such content. In his pre-VYS relationship, he was sexually cheated on, an experience that left deep emotional scars. As a result, he is extremely sensitive to any content that includes attractive or hot female bodies, and he feels a need to ensure I avoid these triggers. We usually try to avoid shows that might contain sexual or nudity scenes. We check ReVYUs, look up parental guides, and even rely on recommendations from friends who know our preferences. This system worked well for a while, but recently an incident with the show 3 Body Problems on Netflix put our approach to the test. It started innocently enough. We were both intrigued by the premise of 3 body problems and decided to give it a try. We didn't anticipate any issues, as the show was primarily marketed as a science fiction thriller. However, as we watched, an unexpected scene featuring female nudity caught us both off guard. I fumbled for the remote, trying to turn it off, but Paul was already visibly upset. His reaction was immediate and intense. He got extremely angry at me for not turning the show off quickly enough. I tried to explain that I was caught off guard and didn't expect the scene, but my words did little to calm him down. He felt betrayed and hurt, as if I had willingly exposed him to something he was trying so hard to avoid. This incident wasn't isolated. It highlighted a recurring issue in our relationship and brought to the surface the unresolved trauma he carries from his past. While I'm personally fine with avoiding certain shows to make him feel comfortable, a small part of me also feels like I may be missing out on some really good shows like Game of Thrones, which are known for their compelling storylines despite their mature content. The incident with 3 Body Problems made it clear that we needed to address this issue more effectively. I wanted to support Paul and respect his boundaries, but I also needed to find a way for us to enjoy TV together without constant fear of triggering his discomfort. This led me to question whether we could find a compromise or if this was something I needed to accept for the rest of our life. As the conflict continued to simmer, I turned an online forum for AdVYC. The overwhelming response was that while Paul's past trauma should be respected, the current dynamic was unhealthy. Many suggested exploring therapy to help him cope with these triggers and to improve our communication and understanding. This idea resonated, and I realized that seeking professional help might be the best way forward for both of us. Paul's past trauma is rooted in a deeply painful experience from his pre-VYS relationship. Before we met, he was involved with someone who betrayed his trust in the most intimate way. His ex-partner cheated on him multiple times, and the infidelity often involved other women who were physically attractive, leading Paul to feel inadequate and deeply hurt. This betrayal shattered his self-esteem and left him with a lingering sense of insecurity around sexual and physical attractiveness. The scars from that relationship ran deep. Paul confided in me about the emotional turmoil he endured, the feelings of worthlessness, and the anxiety that followed him long after the relationship. He worked hard to rebuild his self-confidence, but certain triggers still remain. One of the most significant triggers is seeing other women's sexual or nudity scenes on television shows. These scenes remind him of the betrayal and reignite feelings of insecurity and mistrust in our relationship. Paul's reactions to sexual content on TV have been profound. Even a brief glimpse of nudity or a sexually suggestive scene can cause him significant distress. He becomes visibly upset, his anxiety levels spike, and he often needs reassurance that I'm not comparing him to the women on screen. His immediate reaction is to make me look away or turn off the show, fearing that I might find these women more attractive. Understanding his triggers and wanting to support him, I've adapted to these. From the beginning of our relationship, we established a practice of carefully selecting the TV shows and movies we watch together. We avoid shows that are known for their explicit content. Instead, we focus on genres like comedy, drama, and documentaries. which are less likely to contain scenes that might upset him. Before starting a new series, or MOVYE, we do our due diligence. We read reviews, check parental guides, and sometimes even ask friends for their opinions on it. This process has helped us avoid many potential triggers, and for the most part, it has worked well. However, there have been a few slip-ups, like the incident with 3 body problems, where we were caught off guard by unexpected content despite our precautions. Paul's anxiety about sexual content can still make TV watching a tense experience. For example, when a character on a show starts flirting or a scene takes a suggestive turn, he becomes visibly tense, ready to shield his eyes or change the channel. His anxiety often makes it hard for us to relax and enjoy the show, as I'm also on edge, try to anticipate and avoid anything that might upset him. This vigilance means we miss out on many popular shows known for their rich storylines and cultural impact. Shows like Game of Thrones, Westworld, and even some critically acclaimed films are off the table because of their explicit content. While I'm not a huge TV consumer, I sometimes feel a sense of loss knowing that we're bypassing some exceptional storytelling and cultural phenomena. Our usual approach to selecting TV shows is quite systematic. We rely on online resources like IMDb's Parental Guide, which to detailed content warnings for each episode. We also use streaming VYCES that offer the option to skip certain scenes, although this feature isn't always available. Additionally, we sometimes pre-VYEW episodes separately before deciding to watch them together, ensuring there are no unexpected surprises. Despite these measures, the fear of triggering Paul's discomfort looms large. Every new show, or MOVYE, feels like a gamble, and even with all our precautions, the risk of encountering an upsetting scene remains. This constant vigilance has taken a toll on both of us, creating an underlying tension in an active VY tie that should be relaxing and enjoyable. The incident with 3 body problems was a stark reminder of the fragility of our current approach. Paul's immediate anger and my subsequent guilt highlighted the unresolved nature of this issue. It became clear that simply avoiding certain content wasn't a sustainable solution. We needed to address the root of the problem and find a way to move forward that would allow both of us to enjoy our time together without constant anxiety. The incident with 3 body problems began like any other evening. We had heard positive things about the show, and its science fiction premise intrigued both of us. We settled on the couch, eager to dive into a new series. We didn't anticipate any issues, as the show was primarily marketed as a science fiction thriller. As the first episode unfolded, we were both captivated by the intricate plot and stunning visuals. However, about halfway through the episode, an unexpected scene featuring female nudity caught us off guard. I fumbled for the remote, tried to turn it off, but Paul was visibly upset. His reaction was immediate and intense. He turned to me, his eyes filled with a mix of anger and hurt. "Why didn't you turn it off sooner?" he demanded, his voice shaking. In that moment, a wave of emotions hit. I felt a rush of guilt for not reacting quickly enough, frustration at the unexpected scene, and a deep concern for Paul's distress. "I'm sorry, I didn't expect that," I stammered, fumbling with the remote to pause the show. I was caught off guard. His anger didn't subside. "You know how I feel about these scenes. How could you just sit there?" he cried. The pain in his voice was palpable, and it tore at my heart. I understood why he was upset, but I felt helpless in the face of his intense reaction. We turned off the TV, but the room was still charged with tension. Paul retreated to the bedroom, Leah VYing me alone on the couch, grappling with a mix of guilt and confusion. I wanted to support him, but I also felt frustrated that a seemingly harmless active VY tie had turned into a source of conflict. After VYing him some time to cool down, I went to the bedroom, finding him sitting on the edge of the bed, tears streaming down his face. I sat down beside him, reaching out to hold his hand. "I'm really sorry," I said softly. "I didn't mean to hurt you." He pulled his hand away, his face a mix of anger and sadness. "It's not just about tonight," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's about feeling like I can't trust you to protect me from these. It's about you not understanding how much it affects me." His words stung, but I knew he was right. I had underestimated the depth of his trauma and how these triggers impacted him. "I do understand," I said, struggling to find the right word. "I know it's hard for you, and I want to do better. Can we talk about how we can handle this better in the future?" We sat in silence for a few moments, both of us trying to gather our thoughts. Finally, he spoke. "I just need you to be more aware," he said. "When we watch something new, you need to be ready to turn it off if something happens. I can't always be the one to notice it first." I nodded, understanding his need for reassurance and protection. "I can do that," I agreed. "We can also stick to shows we've checked thoroughly, or even watch them separately first. I don't want you to feel this way every time we try to watch something." Our conversation that night was a mix of apologies and resolutions. We agreed that we needed to be more vigilant about the content we watched and to communicate more openly about our concerns. I promised to be more proactive in avoiding triggers, and he promised to try to communicate his needs more clearly. Despite our best intentions, the underlying issue remained. I could see that Paul was still struggling with his past trauma, and my attempts to avoid triggers were only addressing the symptoms, not the root cause. The incident with 3 body problems was a wake-up call that our current approach wasn't enough. We needed a more comprehensive solution. Over the next few days, we tried to move past the incident, but the tension lingered. Watching TV, an active VY that was supposed to be relaxing and enjoyable, now felt like a minefield. I found myself on edge, constantly scanning for potential triggers, while Paul remained anxious, and one evening, I broached the subject of therapy. "I've been thinking," I began cautiously. "Maybe we should consider seeing a therapist. This isn't just about TV shows, it's about your past trauma, and I think professional help could make a big difference." Paul looked at me, his eyes searching mine. "You really think therapy would help?" he asked, his voice tinged with both hope and skepticism. "I do," I replied. "It's not just about avoiding triggers. It's about finding ways to heal and cope better. I want us to enjoy our time together without this constant fear." He nodded slowly, considering my words. "Okay," he said finally. "We can try it. I don't want to keep VYing like this either." Avoiding shows with sexual content has significantly shaped our entertainment choices over the years. When we first started dating, we both enjoyed watching TV together as a way to unwind and spend quality time. However, as our relationship deepened and I learned more about Paul's past trauma, our VYing habits had to change. We became extremely selective about the shows we watched, prioritizing those that were unlikely to contain any scenes that could trigger his discomfort. This careful curation of our watch list means we often bypass some of the most popular and critically acclaimed shows. Series like Game of Thrones, Westworld, and even certain blockbuster MOVYES are off the table. These shows, renowned for their intricate plots and rich character development, are also known for their explicit content. As a result, we stick to safer genres: comedies, dramas without mature themes, documentaries, and family-friendly animation. While I understand the necessity of these precautions, there are times when I feel a sense of loss. I see friends and colleagues discussing the latest twists in Game of Thrones or the compelling narratives in shows like Westworld, and I can't help but feel left out. These shows have become cultural phenomena, and missing out on them feels like missing a part of the shared social experience. I sometimes wonder about the impact of these missed experiences on my own enjoyment and our shared interests. Although I'm not a huge TV consumer, I do appreciate well-crafted storytelling and engaging plots. It's hard not to feel a pang of regret when I hear about a particularly gripping series that I know we can't watch together. Even when I watch these shows alone, the experience feels incomplete without being able to share it with Paul. For Paul, the avoidance of such content is a necessary measure for his emotional well-being. His past trauma for being sexually cheated on in a pre-VYS relationship has left deep scars. The infidelity involved his ex-partner and other physically attractive women, which led to a significant blow to his self-esteem. This betrayal has made him extremely sensitive to any depiction of attractive women or sexual content on screen. It's not just discomfort. These scenes trigger intense feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, and mistrust. He needs constant reassurance and security to feel safe and valued in our relationship. Whenever we encounter a scene with an attractive woman, he fears that I might find her less attractive in comparison. This fear is so profound that even brief glimpses of nudity or suggestive content can cause significant distress. She feels a need to protect himself from these triggers by avoiding any potential exposure altogether. From his perspective, the avoidance of such content is not just about controlling what we watch. It's about maintaining his sense of security and trust in our relationship. He worries that seeing these images might reignite his feelings of inadequacy and insecurity. This fear extends beyond just TV shows. It affects his daily life and interactions, making him feel vulnerable and constantly on edge. Our usual approach to selecting TV shows involves thorough research and pre-screening. We rely heavily on parental guides, reviewers, and recommendations from trusted sources. This process is time-consuming but necessary to ensure we avoid any unexpected triggers. Despite our best efforts, there are times when something slips through, as it did with 3 body problems, leading to tension and conflict. The constant vigilance required to avoid these triggers has taken a toll on both of us. For me, it means being perpetually on guard, ready to switch off the TV at the slightest hint of inappropriate content. This constant state of alertness makes it hard to fully relax and enjoy our time together. For Paul, it means living with the ever-present anxiety that something might slip through and upset her. We've tried various strategies to manage this issue, including watching episodes separately before viewing them together and sticking to ganas that are less likely to contain explicit content. While these measures have helped to some extent, they're not foolproof. The underlying issue remains, and it's clear that our current approach is not sustainable. Reflecting on these challenges, I realize that simply avoiding certain shows is not a viable long-term solution. IT addresses the symptoms, but not the root cause of the problem. Paul's need for reassurance and security is deeply tied to his past trauma, and avoiding triggers can only do so much. We need a more comprehensive approach that addresses his underlying anxieties and helps him heal from his past. Our decision to explore therapy was driven by the recognition that we needed professional help to navigate this complex issue. Therapy offers the hope of finding healthier ways to cope with his trauma and improving our communication and understanding. Through therapy, we aim to build a stronger foundation of trust and support, allowing us to enjoy our time together without the constant fear of triggering his discomfort. In the end, our journey towards resolving this issue is about more than just finding a way to watch TV together. It's about strengthening our relationship, supporting each other's emotional well-being, and creating a future where both of us can feel secure and valued. As we move forward, we remain committed to working through these challenges together, with the hope that we can find a path that honors both our needs and brings us closer as a couple. Our decision to seek therapy was a pivotal moment in our journey to address Paul's trauma and the impact it had on our relationship. After the intense discussion following the incident with 3 body problems, we both realized that our current strategies were not enough. Avoiding shows with sexual content was a temporary fix, but it didn't address the root of the problem. We needed professional help to navigate these deep-seated issues and find a sustainable way forward. The process of finding the right therapist was meticulous. We wanted someone who specialized in trauma and relationship counseling. After researching and reading reviews, we chose a therapist who came highly recommended for her compassionate approach and expertise in dealing with similar issues. Booking that first appointment filled us with both anxiety and hope as we were stepping into uncharted territory. During our initial therapy session, we sat in the therapist's office, a cozy room designed to make clients feel at ease. The therapist introduced herself warmly and invited us to share her story. We took turns explaining the challenges we've been facing. Paul detailed his past trauma and its lasting effects, while I described the tension it created in our relationship and my internal conflict about avoiding certain TV shows. The therapist listened attentively, her empathetic nods encouraging us to open up. She asked insightful questions, helping us articulate feelings that have been difficult to express. For Paul, it was a relief to have his trauma acknowledged and validated by a professional. The therapist explained that his reactions were normal for someone who had experienced such betrayal, and that our current situation was a common struggle for couples dealing with similar past wounds. In the following sessions, the therapist guided us through various exercises to better understand and manage the impact of Paul's trauma. One of the first techniques we learned was the use of a safe word. This word was a signal Paul could use whenever he felt uncomfortable or triggered by something on the screen. It allowed him to communicate his need to pause or stop the show without VYing to explain his feelings in them, reducing his anxiety and GIVYing him a sense of control. We also explored grounding exercises that Paul could use when he felt overwhelmed. These techniques included deep breathing exercises, focusing on sensory details in the environment, and mindfulness practices. The goal was to help him stay present and calm, reducing the intensity of his reactions to triggers. Over time, he found these exercises helpful, not just during TV watching, but also in other areas of his life where anxiety surfaced. For me, the therapy sessions were enlightening. The therapist helped me understand the profound impact of Paul's trauma and why his reactions were so intense. She explained that Paul's need for reassurance was not about doubting my loyalty, but about managing his own deep-seated fears and insecurities. This perspective shift allowed me to approach the situation with more empathy and patience. We also worked on improving our communication. The therapist emphasized the importance of open and honest conversations about our feelings. She taught us techniques for active listening, where we would take turns speaking without interruption, ensuring that each of us felt heard and understood. These conversations were difficult at first, as they required us to be vulnerable and confront uncomfortable emotions, but they gradually became easier and more productive. Another significant aspect of our therapy was rebuilding trust. The therapist guided us through exercises designed to strengthen our emotional connection and trust. And one such exercise involved sharing positive affirmations daily, reminding each other of our love. This practice helped to reinforce the security in our relationship and provide Paul with the reassurance he needed. The therapist also encouraged us to redefine our entertainment choices together. Instead of focusing on what we couldn't watch, we began exploring new genres and shows that were safe and enjoyable for both of us. We discovered a shared love for mystery and adventure series, which provided excitement without the risk of triggering content. This shift in focus allowed us to reconnect and find joy in our shared viewing experience. As we continued our therapeutic journey, we encountered setbacks. There were moments when old triggers resurfaced, causing tension and frustration. However, the tools and strategies we learned in therapy helped us navigate these challenges more effectively. We learned to approach setbacks with patience and understanding, viewing them as opportunities to grow and strengthen our relationship. One particularly impactful session involved citing the incident with 3 body problems. The therapist asked us to recount the event and our feelings surrounding it. This exercise allowed us to see the incident from each other's perspectives more clearly. Paul expressed how the scene had reignited his fears of inadequacy and betrayal, while I shared my feelings of guilt and helplessness. This mutual understanding helped us find common ground and reaffirm our commitment to supporting each other. Another key strategy we learned was setting boundaries around our TV watching. We established rules, such as only watching news shows together when we had ample time to discuss any issues that arose, and pre-screening potentially risky content using online guides. We also decided to limit our viewing sessions to specific times when we both felt relaxed, free from other stresses, ensuring that our shared time was as enjoyable as possible. Through therapy, we also explored the deeper implications of Paul's trauma on our daily lives. The therapist helped Paul work through his feelings of inadequacy, guiding him to rebuild his self-esteem and sense of self-worth. This process involved individual therapy sessions focused on his personal growth and healing, complementing our joint session. For me, therapy provided a space to address my feelings of loss and frustration. The therapist helped me understand that it was okay to feel deprived of certain experiences and that these feelings didn't diminish my commitment to Paul. We worked on finding a balance where I could enjoy certain shows on my own while prioritizing our shared viewing experience. This compromise allowed me to feel more fulfilled without compromising Paul's emotional well-being. As our therapy sessions progressed, we noticed significant improvements in our relationship. Our communication became more open and honest, and the tension around TV watching began to dissipate. Paul felt more secure and less anxious, and I felt more equipped to support him. We both gained a deeper understanding of each other's needs and how to navigate our challenges. One of the most valuable outcomes of therapy was the realization that our relationship could grow stronger through adversity. By facing our issues head-on and seeking professional help, we were able to transform a source of conflict into an opportunity for growth and connection. Therapy taught us that it's possible to heal from past traumas and build a healthier, more resilient relationship. In conclusion, our therapeutic journey was a transformative experience that helped us address Paul's trauma and the impact it had on our relationship. Through professional guidance, we learned effective strategies to manage triggers, improve communication, and rebuild trust. While the road to healing was challenging, the progress we made was a testament to our commitment to each other. With the tools we gained from therapy, we are better equipped to face future challenges and continue building a strong, supportive partnership. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.